Tonight, we continued our discussion on idolatry, very, very timely and relevant. So we were discussing idolatry and the prohibition of idolatry, and that prohibition vis-a-vis the Noahide. And especially this time of year in America, some of these things come up as relevant. So the conversation last week, did it like sharpen anyone's eyes? Anything happen over the week that like made you think, oh yeah, idolatry or anything along those lines?
I think this time has just always sharpened my eyes to, it's just so sad what's going on. It's like unbelievable. And you just see so much of it. I can't even explain it. It's just, but like your class last week said, it's something that really a lot of people don't even realize is idolatry. Is all around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes we're learning things we could say, oh, we know this. It's always good to remind ourselves, especially this time of year, of all of these concepts. All right, so we are continuing, and we're going to focus on forbidden statues, images, pillars, things along those lines. In the book here is chapter 5 under the prohibition of idolatry. We're not going to do every law. I selected ones that I felt were more relevant or practical in our world. So you can't make for yourself a statue or an image of an idol in case you wanted to. And it doesn't mean you can't make it for yourself. You can't make it for someone else. You can't tell someone else to make one for you. You can't tell someone else to make an idol for you, even if you have no intention of worshiping. You just happen to think it's a really cool design and it matches your decor. This is an image of an idol that someone made for you. Absolutely forbidden.
Well, and that's what's so sad. The crosses are everywhere, and they wear them on their belts. They engrave them into saddles and to boots and to their, they have them on their walls in their houses. I mean, it's just everywhere.
For this reason, meaning a symbol has a lot of power. It represents a lot of things. It's like a shorthand of a lot. So it's a concise way of whatever they feel it symbolizes expressing. And that's why it's so significant. Well, that's not meaningless at all. It's very significant for those reasons.
Oh, yeah. And everybody gets mad at me because I won't let anybody come in my house with crosses or anything. In fact, my granddaughter won't even come because of that. But that's her problem, not mine.
You're standing up for truth, and God willing, truth penetrates and she'll hear that message.
Well, I keep hoping. After 4 years, it's not going in very good.
You know what? Life is a lot longer than 4 years. We give over a message. We're consistent with our message. We're consistent with the truth, and it trickles in. And sometimes it trickles in, and people don't want to give us the satisfaction of knowing it trickled in. And sometimes it takes a while to trickle in, and sometimes people don't even realize that they absorbed it. And something happens later, and what's coming out of their mouth is like, I didn't know I believed in that, but it trickled in. So we just stick with the truth, and we trust that truth penetrates. And God willing, you will be pleasantly surprised.
Amen. Someday.
God willing. God willing. So you can't make it for someone else. Someone else can't make it for you. You can't make it for you. Obviously, anything to do with this is clearly forbidden. It's forbidden to buy it. Talking here about the prohibition of making idols. Now we're saying, of course, well, you go into Walmart. Can you buy it? Well, I'm not going to serve it. Again, just for whatever reason I want it. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely not. It's forbidden to make statues for decoration, even if there's no intent for them to be served, and they are not idols, certain statues, as we're going to explain. So the first laws we just said, hi Christelle, the first laws we just said were the prohibition of idols. You can't make an idol, you can't make an idol for yourself, you can't make an idol for someone else, you can't purchase an idol, even if you have no intention of worshiping any of the above, or the person you're giving to has no intention of worshiping it, you both don't have any intention of worshiping, you still can't make it, buy it, sell it. Well, sure, that's idol. Now, because idolatry is so severe, idolatry is the most severe issue that there is. It's the essence denial of God. Meaning, let's say you gossip. Does God allow you to gossip? No, we spend 3 classes discussing it. Are you going against God when you gossip? Absolutely. But your belief in God, so to speak, could be intact as you gossip. You know him. You know he doesn't allow it. You're allowing yourself not to think about it. You're indulging into pleasure. Idolatry is much deeper than that. Idolatry is directly going against God. And that's why there are so many levels and levels of prohibition around and around this issue, because truly it's so forbidden. That means, and of course this circles back to what Dixie was saying before, it's an essence desire of man. If we didn't desire it, it wouldn't have to be so forbidden. would not be forbidden, of course, but no, all these prohibitions, because it truly is existential and it truly is a desire. So therefore, not only is making or buying or selling an idol that you have no intention of worship absolutely forbidden, but even certain type of statues or pillars, when they would make pillars that were sculpted, are forbidden, even though they're purely decoration. The people making them, they might be idolatrous people, but they're not making them as idols. They're only making them as decoration. You only view them as decoration. Everyone only views them as decoration. No one's worshiping them. They're still forbidden. Why? It's just too close.
What pillars? What pillars are you talking
So
about?
pillars that we're talking about would be, or a statue or a pillar that has a three-dimensional human or angel form from a frontal perspective or the back perspective. Does not have to be the whole body. It could be the whole body, or it could be the front half, or it could be the back half. Full frontal, full means face and body, not just body. That doesn't count. Not just face. That doesn't count, but face and body with human proportions.
Wow, okay.
That would be forbidden, though the person making it does not view it as an idol. The person looking at it doesn't view it as an idol. You don't view it as an idol. No one views it as an idol, but it's still absolutely prohibited because it's too close to home. It's just too easy to morph from there to idolatrous worship, and therefore it's forbidden. Now, what's interesting is if you made a statue of a alligator, that's permissible. An ant, a dog, full, proportionate, three-dimensional. You want to do it, whatever. Everyone has their own tastes. It's the human form or the form that will be representing an angel. Those are the prohibited forms. Any other form, a mythical form is permissible. A dragon. Someone's making a dragon, that's permissible. Someone's making a form that doesn't exist. A person was making a mermaid. That's permissible. A human form or a form of an angel is prohibited, even though no one, not the makers, not the viewers, have any relationship between this and worship.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know what angels look like. So how can we make forms of them?
The form that is representing an angel in the eye of the sculpture and the eye of the people viewing it. Obviously, what they're making probably doesn't look anything like an angel. Well, that's what if the people viewing it, this is what they would call an angel, is prohibited.
And there's so many forms of angels around in people's houses.
Right. Now, again, if it's a painting, it's okay. The prohibition here is something three-dimensional, a sculpture. Again, it could be sculptured into anything. It could be a cup. It could be anything. You said a belt. Could be anything. Doesn't have to be a statue, 10 feet tall. It could be a miniature. It could be this high. If it's three-dimensional, human or angel form with correct proportions, it's forbidden. Meaning if it's obviously disformed, we know it's not really human or angel form. So that's permissible. And if it's a painting, that's permissible. A weaving and embroidery, that's permissible. It's something three-dimensional that would be forbidden. Like, for example, and again, it's for decoration. If there was a functionality to this, it would be permissible. I'm thinking, like in my head will be functional. I'm thinking like, let's say a scarecrow. So a scarecrow would be permissible. It has a function. The farmer's putting it in his farm for a reason. So that would not be forbidden. That's not for decoration. Maybe as we would use it be decoration. But I'm saying a farmer that's truly using it for a functional purpose, that's permissible. It's only if it's for decoration and it's three-dimensional and it's proportionate and it's a human or angel head and body, at least the complete front or back or both. A profile is not a problem because that's not a frontal view. Something that's disproportionate is not a problem. Something with only the head or only the body is not a problem. But if it's head and body, proportionate, like, I'm just thinking a practical thing, if someone bought a collector's doll. People have dolls, not that children play with, but that are like on their shelves as decorations, dolls of the different countries. If you go to some fancy store in downtown Chicago, I forget the name, whatever they call it, maybe the American Doll Collection, where those are very expensive dolls. Maybe some people buy them for their children, some people buy them just to display. That's a problem. Those don't work. What you need to do in those situations is in some way maim the doll so it doesn't have the perfect features. The problem is because my daughter once got one of them and they're expensive, and unlike any cheap doll, that's very easy to cut off a bit of the nose, a bit of the ear, a bit of the finger. these dolls are made of like china, so you can't really cut something off without ending up smashing it. So that is unfortunately the tragic end of these dolls. But in theory, if you could just slice off something, a finger, a nose, a earlobe, something that shows that it's no longer this, human form. No, it's maimed, it's deformed, it's missing something. Oh, okay, then it's fine, then it's permissible. But if it's whole and intact and full featured and proportionate, it's a problem. Just to clarify, if you would have like a human form with minor non-human parts added, that would also be forbidden. Like, for example, like a mythical feature of like a woman that has snakes instead of hair. No, that's still forbidden. Well, it's not a human. It's human enough. You got the human face, you got the human body, and you got some snakes growing out of your scalp. That's considered human enough. That also would be forbidden, or anything along those lines. And we're talking about the angels. So you said, in terms of how do we know angels, there's also the form of the angels. Again, is this realistically how they look? No, but this is in our vision, the angels of what we call God's divine chariot, which have from one body the four faces of the human, the ox, the lion, and the eagle. That emerging from one body will be considered this angel power, and therefore be forbidden. Or like a childlike body with the face of an angel, cherub, that will be forbidden. Of course, you anyway have the childlike body and the childlike face. It's anyway forbidden, but here's a little more angelic. Again, it's forbidden as an angel, or any form that will be representing angels on any level. If it's three-dimensional, it's forbidden. Now, here again, there's no difference if you make it for yourself, if you buy it, if you sell it, if someone else made it and you happen to own this whatever area of land where the statue is on, you didn't buy the statue, you happen to buy these acres, it happened to be there was a statue there. It's a problem. And again, simple solution, destroy it, smash it, do something to break it. So again, even though it's not made as idolatry on any level, but it's also completely forbidden. So then we get into like now this time of year. Now this is morphing back to the idolatrous thing, but again, from this idea of the decoration, things that people would claim are not idolatrous, but that they're only decoration, but are really idolatrous. Like, for example, if someone had like what they call a nativity scene. So something along those lines actually be viewed as idolatry, even if the people that own it say, no, this is decoration, it's seasonal decoration. I'm not particularly religious. I just like to make my yard pretty or fit with the neighborhoods. Nothing idolatrous going on here. 100% forbidden, and to such a degree that if for some reason you had one, like you bought a house and you found it in the basement or in the attic or in the closet, or you inherited it from someone, you have to, if it's three-dimensional, you have to destroy it, including the body of the baby has to be literally smashed, literally destroyed, as we would destroy an idol. That's how it's viewed. You say, but it's only decoration. You say, no, that's not considered decoration, that we have a problem because it's a 3D image. No. That's considered idolatry. So even if the people owning it and displaying it don't view it as idolatrous, they view it as decoration. Being with the times, putting out stuff like all their neighbors. That is considered absolutely idolatrous. And again, if you in any way have possession of something like that, it must be literally destroyed. If it's not three-dimensional, it was like a picture of something like that, you have to make it unusable. Again, three-dimensional is really the problem. That's when it's really, this is an idol. The whole thing has to be absolutely smashed, absolutely destroyed. If it's not three-dimensional, it will be a picture depicting something like that. It's also considered something way too close to idolatry, and therefore you have to do something in such a fashion that it could not be used.
It's kind of like I have a niece and a couple other people I know. They put up Christmas trees and lights, but they don't believe in it. It's
right.
Like, what is the point?
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what I meant, that there are people that have all these decorations, and if you speak to them, they would say, I don't believe in any of this. Well, the truth is, I was speaking to a woman today, a Jewish woman, not religious, but thank God she's making strides in the right direction. And she said to me that her son, like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he wanted to keep December 25th, just because he wanted to be like all the other kids in his class. Everyone else has this big party and gets presents, and it's so much fun, and decorating a tree and doing all that. And like, it was just back like 3 years ago. And she's like, we're Jewish, we don't believe in that. We don't do that. And it was really hard for him. It was like really hard for him because he was different than everyone else in his class. Now, thank God, I guess over the years, she's progressed enough in her observance that it's trickled down to her children enough that he doesn't even think about it. He has Hanukkah, and that's all he has. And he tells all the kids in his class that Hanukkah is the best. But I think that goes back to what you're saying, that a lot of people in America would tell you it's not a religious object. I don't believe in this. I have no belief in it. I just, if I'm having a party, I've got to decorate my house appropriately. If I have kids, I've got to make it fun for the kids and like what they see on TV and like what their friends talk about. So, we all have to do it because everyone else is doing it. But this is idolatry. Anything connected to this is idolatry. And idolatry we have to literally destroy. I'm sure all of you, because you've been through this enough years, you don't have the struggles that you probably had initially with your family understanding it or your family respecting it or your children. But I'm sure in the beginning it was quite rough.
Hey, Cyril, I was going to tell you, it's so funny. Here we are having this class and like, my husband's like packing for a trip and I'm doing the class. And so we're like, PBS, you can watch some PBS. And it's the Grinch and the Christmas Story. I was just like, and so I was like, we're not going to watch this. I was like, it's about Christmas. He's like, but Mom, it's okay. He was like, it's not so much about the presents and the Christmas. He was like, it's about the friends and the family. And so it's like, that's where they get you, it's like the friends and the family. And it's like, well, we just no. And I was like, because we're in class, I was like, well, we're just not going to watch it. So let's look at it for a documentary.
So you found something about the Eskimos or something like that?
I know. No, it's like Nat Geo Wild. We'll go there.
I saw during COVID when my son's school was online like everyone else's was. And it wasn't this time of year. It was probably like Halloween. I'm trying to think. Thanksgiving wouldn't have bothered me. It was like Halloween time. And I saw the whole week before everything was saturated with it. And I was really upset. And I spoke to the teacher and during the story time, like the reading, the books chosen that week all were thematic to Halloween. So I'll take him off wasn't Zoom, but whatever it was, Google Meet during that book time. But since I was around, I saw it's not just the book. It filters into the math exercises and anything they were doing, the ABCs. It was all done with that twist for an entire week. And then I had a meeting with the teacher over Google Meet to say, I'm really concerned. If this is what it's like here, what's it like in December? And she said, no, that we view as religious, so we don't do it. This isn't religious. So, it's just fun for the kids. But I was, whatever. I definitely felt exactly as you're saying, that whatever time of year these things are around, it filters into everything. Like PBS, not religious show, but it's going to be there. It's going to absolutely be there. And that's why, especially this time of year, when you're in a store, when you're online, when they're watching something, you have to be so vigilant for yourself and for your children, for your spouse, for everyone, because it's just out there. So you've got to be really careful. You have to really understand that it's an evil, understand that evil clings, that evil makes an impact, to really be strong and not say, well, really, there's nothing religious. It's just a children's program. And I have a good class to go to learn all about idolatry. So I might just let him watch it and say, wait, that makes absolutely no sense. No, forget it. Find a different show. Yes. But I don't know otherwise if you've had that situation with your children saying like, oh, why can't we just have some presents or a tree or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that this is our first year being close to family since we've had kids. And so, although previously, it was a lot easier because we just wouldn't visit during this time. Now we're close to family, so it's very challenging. My son had plans to go spend the evening with his grandparents and my dad. And the day before he was going to go, my dad like sent a picture of all these like blow up animals. Like they were Christmas themed. They had like Santa hats and stuff on them. And I was like, oh boy. He's like, oh, Gershom's going to love this. And I was like, oh gosh. I was like, okay. So, I wasn't quite sure how to handle it. I'm like, okay, we've had this conversation many times. He must have forgot, and my dad, he lights Hanukkah
You
candles.
told
And
me he
he's
likes the
just
Hanukkah candles. I
yeah,
remember.
he does. And he's so like just understanding and
Proud
kind.
of
And
his
it just,
Noahide grandchildren.
yeah. It breaks my heart to tell him, like, I'm really sorry, but I don't want Gershom to be, we don't want Gershom to be around those things. And having that conversation was very difficult, and then this was even before Thanksgiving. So I thought that we were in the clear with sending him there because that it wasn't, December yet. I thought we were in the clear. So anyway, he ended up not going, but he'll go in January. But
They'll be
it's
down.
just yes, everything. Yes, he said once it's down, I'll let you know, and he can come. And
So
he said we
he
take it down.
understood. He accepted. Your dad.
He did. Oh yeah, he's very understanding and very kind. But
And Gershom.
my stepmom not so much. And then Gershom very understanding. He's he is very understanding. So I don't know how much hard feelings there was, but it was, difficult because it's like, oh yeah, it's like November 20th and this is already a problem. But I mean, as your life evolves, you come up with, different challenges, of course, but that was our challenge over the last few weeks.
So thank God it wasn't from your children that they were asking for it.
No.
So that's that. Thank God. So you haven't gotten to that challenge. Thank God you should have gotten to that challenge.
Well, they're young, so it's easy now. Yeah.
But they have children that they play with.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And James and I have been really good since they could, since really they were born, that we talked to them about it and explaining, and James is better than I am about it, just explaining to them why, why it's not something we participate in. And, even though they are our family and we love them very much and they're not bad people, we're just, James describes a lot better than me, but, they don't understand the extent of what they're doing with those type of things. And to them, it's just fun and simple and, it's something to do, but it is actually harmful to our souls. And so,
What you're saying,
for now, they get it.
Very important point. I'm going to echo it for anyone here or who's going to watch this later. Even before, if you're in this situation like Danielle with small children, even before a child is old enough to understand, you say everything to them. And of course, that's true for every aspect of our faith, that we do not wait for a child to be old enough to understand anything. If it's charity, if it's dressing modestly, if it's speaking respectfully, if it's idolatry, when they're babies, you just talk to them as if they completely understand. For sure, understand much more than you think. And it's also just penetrating. It's penetrating. So if you keep on coming back to that, like we say, muscle memory, so their brain is retaining, and this is just sort of forming how their brain's developing. So it's forming how they're going to look at the world. So God willing, they should look at it like, I feel bad for you, and thank God I know it's not for us. Thank God we know that that's really bad for us, and we do or do not get presents. Hanukkah, we don't get presents. We give the tradition is to give a certain amount of money, and that's what we give, and that's it, because it's not pseudo December holiday. It's Hanukkah. Exactly. And Hanukkah is not about presents. It really isn't. It's about parties. It's about festivity. It's about light. It's about getting together and having good food and lots of fried food and lots of dairy food. But it's not really about presents. So there are those that do it like to compensate, but what do we need to compensate for? This is what we have, and this is beautiful, and this is not as materialistic in that way. And thank God. Christelle, what about you? Have you seen anything with your son along those lines?
I think he is, I think he is fine with not doing all of the things, he doesn't really ask for them or anything. He did ask, he said, he'll ask other kids, like, how are you going to do it all? You know, he's like, cause it's like, it's so overwhelming. I mean, people where we live, like how, like they pay people to like put lights up and stuff. And it's like very like, I mean, it's very much in our face, but
So
yeah.
your dark house very much stands out.
Yes. Well, and you know what? Funny enough, our neighbors are Jewish and they don't like put up anything either. So we're like the two dark houses in the midst. But now they do celebrate, but they don't celebrate like they do celebrate. Like they do have like, you know, a tree and stuff, but they don't like have like the lights or anything like that. But they do Hanukkah. And so like we're really excited about doing, you know, like latkes and, you know, and the fried foods and, you know, we're going to get together and do stuff. And so that part will be fun. And it's just, we won't be over there on, you know, the 25th.
Well, your Jewish neighbors have a tree. Okay, fine. Right. People are very confused. People are very confused. I saw this with a lot of Jews coming out of Russia, where to them, the tree was nothing. I mean, Russia, religion was forbidden. So they say it's nothing to do with religion. Everybody in Russia had this, and it's an atheist country that forbids religion. So obviously the tree has nothing to do with religion. It's just it's a New Year's tree, you know, green, evergreen, the new year. And we're like, no matter how they painted it to, you know, give a, you know, like to make it permissible, how it slid under the communist atheist control. But I guess they just thought it was something they couldn't fight. So instead of fighting it, we're all going to pretend it's not religious. We're all going to pretend it's not religious because we know we can't uproot it from you. So we're just going to pretend it's not religious. But no matter what we're pretending, it's religious. And therefore it's truly a tragedy when you see that. As 100% I've seen as well. Or people say, well, I'm going to have it white, not green, white and silver. It's so beautiful. And there is a certain desire, a very strong desire to be like everyone else. It's interesting, actually, the Lubavitcher Rebbe speaks about different animals that are different, represent different desires, like an ox, a bull, a sheep, different things that are symbolic in Torah thought. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, this generation's temptation is to be a sheep. What does a sheep mean? That you want to stick with the flock. You want to stick with the herd. You don't want to stand out. You don't want to be different. You could dye your hair neon purple as long as everyone else is. So you're blending with the herd with your neon purple hair. You want to stick with the herd. And it's for people, and this, Bob Trevor said this in the 50s, it could be such a struggle to say, I separate from the herd when the herd is doing something that's not appropriate. I don't mind being with the herd. Of course, when we're doing something appropriate, it's better to be with other people. And it's painful to be separate, as Dixie was saying before. There's a lot of pain in being separate. It's hard to be separate. It's hard. And the Rebbe is saying this is literally the issue of our generation. So it's really hard for us. It's really painful, as Danielle's saying, when she's sitting in the comforts of Chicago and her family is doing something and okay, we don't happen to visit that weekend. It's a lot easier than when you're, you know, down the block, so to speak, and everyone's gathering together and we don't go for a number of days until this all is over. And
what really is a problem that I think I told you last week, it's my aunt's 100th birthday. Well, now this week I was going with my sister and her husband, but my sister called and she said, I just can't deal with you and your religion that you follow. She said, I just can't deal with this Jewish stuff. And she said, are you going to let anybody hug you up there, the men? And I said, no, I'm not. And she said, that's it. She said, I just can't deal with it. I said, Judy, that's fine. I won't go. I said, I'm not going to put you under that. I just won't go. And she said, well, she said, my Tom has to go up on Saturday. She said, I suppose you won't go on Saturday. And I said, no, of course not. She said, because he has to spend the night. He's had a blood clot, so he can't drive. He'll take him 2 days, you know, up one, and one back. I said, that's fine. Just don't worry about it. I won't go. I said, I'm not going to put you through that stress. And so it ended up that I possibly be going with my brother if he goes, but I may not get to go because, you know, of the fact that I won't let men touch me. So it's pretty sad, but that's what happens.
That's so sad because there's nothing there impeding. Just be respectful. And Why should that become such a deal, such a problem? Why does it make people so uncomfortable? I think it makes people uncomfortable because it sort of highlights that what they're doing is wrong. And on a certain level, they're aware that what they're doing is wrong, but they could just forget about that piece of them and just, convince themselves that what they're doing is right. But when you're like there in their face, no, men and women are not supposed to be all over each other, and that's wrong, and that's not what God wants. Well, they know that too. So I think that's why something like that would be so difficult, is just because I could be wrong. It could be for a different reason, but I would think, it's just, you're just reminding me of how I should behave, and I don't want that reminder. It makes me uncomfortable.
That's exactly what it is. Well, I'm reminding them of how they should behave, and they don't. It's customary now in our society, you hug and all that stuff. The society's become a hugging society. When I grew up, it wasn't that way. My mother would always say, keep your hands to yourself. It didn't become until about 30, 40 years ago, the churches started teaching, hug your neighbor, hug your person next to you. And my mom was not a hugger. She very seldom even hugged us kids, really. But it's become the norm.
Right.
And and now the norms become the accepted thing, and I'm the weird one because you can't touch me. I belong to Jack's. They said, well, he's dead. I said, I don't care if he's dead or not. I'm still part of him. I said, I never went out to get another man or anything, so I'm still part of him. I said, I'm sorry, but don't touch what is not yours. That's what my mom always said, and that's what one of the rabbis said the other day. He said, don't touch what is not yours. Keep your hands to yourself. I thought
I'm really sorry if because of that you're not attending this event, but that was her choice. I'm sorry for you, and I'm sorry for her. It seems really sad on both ends.
So guys, I have a question. What about like some younger girl or something, and she doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with other people putting their hands on her? I mean, does she not have the ability to be like, you know what I mean? I don't want you to touch me. I mean,
unfortunately, like Dixie's saying, in our society, it would really be viewed as why not? Like if you have that feeling, you would suppress it because like you're supposed to be normal.
That just feels like they're grooming young girls for horrible things.
Well, yeah.
Of course they are. That's the whole point.
Because it becomes very promiscuous. It does. It just becomes like there's no boundaries, just like Dixie's saying, there's no boundaries to our bodies. And to the degree that they're saying, well, Dixie, you're weird. You're the strange one, that you're creating a boundary to your body. That's strange. That's unusual. And the truth is, again, like Dixie's saying, this, I mean, you're not in the city, you're in the country where people generally sort of kept their religious values much more strongly than in like Chicago, but still it's just such media influence, society influence, breaking down the morals of people who you're saying 30, 40 years ago had those morals. I don't think in Chicago they were careful 30, 40 years ago either. But till it's, the country, it took a bit more time.
I have a niece. Well, my sister that I can't go with, she has a granddaughter who will not let anybody touch her, especially men. She will not let a man touch her. And she's only 5 years old.
How do they handle that?
Oh, they're happy. They're happy that they won't let anybody touch her.
That's really interesting. It's very, it seems very inconsistent.
Yeah, real inconsistent.
Well, that's actually good. If that means that at least they've appreciated it in the child, that's good. They understand it's awesome.
It's awesome.
We definitely all have these challenges. And, if like Danielle's is her children visiting relatives, and Christelle is what happens to be on the very, educational network, or Dixie is with these parties. But I really feel it's something that God so appreciates, your commitment, because it is difficult and it is painful and it does hurt. And it would be so much easier to be a little blind and a little spaced out, a little like not realizing, not noticing. Yeah, it's fine. But obviously for yourself or for your children, whatever the situation is, and also for your family and these people that are getting this very clear message from you, it's great that you're saying, no, it's not fine. It's not fine that show. It's not fine those blown up figures. It's not fine retouching. None of it's fine. And again, it's hard to be that lone voice in the wilderness. But of course, you're not alone because God's with you, appreciating for all of you, for every Noahide this time of year. I'm sure there's self-sacrifice. I'm sure there's a lot of self-sacrifice. Sometimes it's in your psyche, you're so used to it, you don't even think of it as self-sacrifice. And sometimes it's very painful and comes up. And sometimes you think it's all under control and something happens, like Dixie's just telling us. I'm like, whoa, who would think you'd have a challenge now in this department? It's your self-sacrifice, because you're all having self-sacrifice and pain and sometimes loneliness in all of these areas. Getting back to what we were saying here. So if a person has anything along these lines, then they really have to, again, it has to be not that you wanted to have it, but you found it, or you forgot you owned it, you never threw it out. I'm sure for all of you, there's been various stages in purging your possessions. You know, like I remember with Christelle last year, we're not even realizing that was an issue. You know, there's stages and stages of purging, realizing there's something in the attic, something in the basement, something in a closet, something that was from a relative. And you can feel like, I obviously have no belief in any of this. I live my life in a way that expresses I have no belief in any of this. But, you know, it's sentimental. It was my grandmother's. It was my parents. It was a beloved aunt. It's not the religious. It's sentimental. It was a piece of jewelry she wore. It's associated with her. All that stuff. And it's like, no. Anything connected to idolatry has to be destroyed. Christelle, were you going to say something?
I do have a question. So, you know, I have like pictures and stuff where, you know, like there's a tree in the background or something. I mean, can I just cut the tree out, or, you know, I don't know, or
Yes, 100%. You could cut the tree out and then it's fine. Yeah, absolutely. You could cut the tree out and then it's fine. I think I mentioned once the story of a woman in another class of mine, a Jewish woman, but idolatry is forbidden, Jews and non-Jews. She was having, unfortunately, she miscarried several times. She kept miscarrying. And they went to some big rabbi who said something about, is there anything idolatrous in your house? In other words, that could be creating this negative energy that would keep causing her to miscarry. Idolatrous in my Jewish house? What could be idolatrous? And then she realized that there were pictures. When they were married, her husband toured Europe. And he had pictures by churches or other such things. And I don't know if she just stripped up the pictures or she just cut out everything of that nature in the picture, but that's what she realized was idolatrous in her house. And after all those pictures or those parts of the pictures were destroyed, thank God she had children. She was able to carry full term. So yes, definitely a picture that has something in it is like a magnet, a conduit to this negative energy. And definitely if you just cut out that part, you're destroying it. Whatever's simpler. Destroying the picture. If the picture is valuable, destroying that part of the picture. Absolutely. Because again, we're very, very, very careful, because we understand that this is such a huge evil. It's such a powerful evil that's, and the more people that worship something, the more power it has. Geographically, if you're in a place like America, this evil has tremendous power. Maybe in India, it doesn't have so much power. In America, this has tremendous power. In Europe, this has tremendous power to such a degree. This is the one night of the year, December 24th at night, that Jews don't learn Torah, not to feed into that power. It has that much power. It's that powerful. It's that destructive. We have to be that careful, which again sounds like a crazy thing.
What do you suggest? What do you suggest we do that night to limit the power it has? Because it's all energy, and the energy we try and limit. So, what should we do to make our energy more powerful against that energy?
That's a great question, because again, you cannot study Torah that night to try it that way. What we are allowed to do is look at pictures of the very holy, righteous Jews, the tzaddikim. So you could go online and Google pictures or read stories. So you could read stories, Jewish stories of great people in the past or the present. So you could read those stories and connect to that energy to sort of create at least a protective barrier around yourself that the other energy doesn't get in.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Both to heighten your energy so you're protected, and of course, really, ideally, to let it diffuse in the air around you. So we're very cautious from when it becomes dark until, let's say, Jewish midnight. You say roughly till 12. That's a little past that. But from when, let's say, again, this time of year, roughly, I'm saying from 4 to 12 at night, December 24th in the evening, those are like these prime hours that we're so aware of the power, we literally don't learn Torah, not to feed that energy. Yes, because of course it's a question like, so what are we supposed to do? We know what the rest of the world's doing. Well, you're not going to turn on the TV. So what are you supposed to do? Yes, you want to tap into a good source. And, of course, this year it's going to be Hanukkah. So you can definitely read Hanukkah stories. You go on Chabad.org and read story after story after story after story. Binge on stories, tell the stories, read the stories, share the stories. Yes.
Is there any problem? It's Hanukkah, so by lighting the Hanukkah lights, that after sundown, are we going into the klipa?
Well, that's fine. You're allowed to light the lights. We just refrain from studying Torah. That's the only thing we don't do is study Torah. We do every other commandment. We just don't study Torah because Torah is such a powerful force that brings energy to the world. And that night, the energy is so intense. We don't want to feed that energy. God forbid that our Torah should go in and feed that energy. And that's why we refrain. Just for those, whatever it is, 4 to 12, whatever, however many hours that is there, 8 hours. Just for those.
So it doesn't matter.
What? No.
No,
it's that night.
So as long as daylight comes, the energy is
even once it comes midnight, just till midnight, we're saying that's the intensity of the energy. That's the intensity of its power. And because it's a real power, it's a real evil. It really exists. It's a power. It's a force. If it wasn't a force, we'd say, they're so silly putting all their energy into something that's nothing. No, we say it's a real force. And of course, light combats evil. And normally our perspective is you add light, which would, of course, many ways we add light, including Torah study. That night, we say there's so much evil. Our Torah study could feed that evil. We're going to refrain. We're going to study Torah before and after. So we'll make up whatever Torah study was missed. But for those hours, we're not studying Torah, not to feed that evil, because the evil is real. And that's why, yes, if you happen to have a picture with something on it that that's one thing I forgot to remove in my many purgings, but I still have some pictures around. Great. You found another way to remove evil, because it's an evil and you don't want any magnet between you and that evil. So we will stop at this point. And I hope we should have a luminous week, a week of adding light, being focused on light, being focused on positivity, and knowing that light dispels darkness, and we are tapped into a lot of light. And the more we emanate light, the more the darkness on its own is diffused. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.